The New Delhi metro area is home to well over 30 million people. More people live in this one city than live in the entire continental nation of Australia. I can't get over that. That is an absolutely insane statistic. And yet, the common sentiment that you'll hear over and over and over from people who have been is to stay as far away from Delhi as humanly possible. Why? Why do so many people resist New Delhi? Why are they all telling me to stay away? What makes it so different from the other cities in India? If you couldn't tell, I did not take their advice. This is the iconic New Delhi, India. I quickly became very well acquainted with the New Delhi airport. Throughout my month in India, I flew round trip from Delhi to cities all over the country. Because it was serving as my home base, my experience in Delhi was pretty different from my experiences with the other Indian cities. I didn't have a hotel. I instead stayed in a proper apartment for the whole month. It was located in a residential development called DLF Capitol Greens. It's essentially a gated community, and yeah, for sure, those are common all over the world, but this was on another level. They have their own grocery store. They have their own food court with multiple restaurants. I should know, I went pretty much every day. There is a pool, there is a tennis court, there is a bank, there's a whole shopping center with a massage parlor and a stationery store. It is very much a fully enclosed micro society, and whether I liked it or not, this was going to be my home base for the entire month. When I finally had a free day and could muster up the energy to step outside the comfort of the Capitol Greens, one of the first tourist sites that I decided to visit was the India Gate. It reminds me a bit of the Arc de Triomphe in Paris or the Washington Arch in New York City. It's actually a war memorial commemorating the Indian soldiers who died in World War I. You'll also find quite a few other statues in the area celebrating different important figures in the military history of India. It's a beautiful place with gorgeous fountains and landscaping and gardening. Many nationals who live outside of the big cities don't see many foreigners in their day-to-day life, so don't be offended if someone stops to ask you for a photo. Now, my plan was that after I visited the India Gate that I would continue to spend the rest of the day exploring the city. But it was not to be, because I encountered what is probably the biggest issue in New Delhi for tourists and locals alike: traffic. Now, traffic is of course not just an issue in India, but in cities all over the world. However, it makes sense when you take 31 million people all on the go and pack them into one place with very loose traffic laws that it might foster some mobilization issues. As such, regardless of if you're taking a cab or an auto rickshaw to get around, it takes forever. It makes going anywhere an enormous chore. And when you have the option to live your life comfortably, contained in your own little society bubble, it makes it hard to want to leave and go out and explore. So, to be honest with you, for a while after that I didn't. And before I knew it, I only had a few days left in India and had barely seen anything in New Delhi at all. I had to see more of this city, traffic and all. I decided that the best way to see as much of Delhi as possible in a short period of time would be by booking a private tour by car that would take me to many of the popular sites all in one day. I had great experiences in Varanasi and in Kolkata with private tours, so I was sure to have a great experience here too, right? Well, not necessarily. I mean, to start, I never even learned my tour guide's name. That should tell you something. It was sort of half-hearted from the beginning. But, tour guide aside, I did get to see a bunch of really cool places. We started with the GURUDWARA BANGLA SAHIB, and it is probably the most iconic Sikh temple in all of New Delhi. Video is not allowed inside, so I only have this footage from beforehand, but this was my first ever interaction in any way with the Sikh religion. Learning about world religions was a major theme of my time in India, and the Sikh religion was, and probably still is, the one that I know the least about. That said, seeing the enormous sacred pool known as the Sarovar and hearing the music and the chanting made me want to learn so much more about this religion. I mean, they serve countless free meals to locals every single day, along with providing very affordable MRIs. I mean, just those two things alone tell you how selfless and noble the people of the Sikh faith are. Amazing. We traveled from there over to Old Delhi to see the JAMA MASJID, which is one of the largest mosques in all of India and was built way back in 1656. During Eid al-Adha and Eid al-Fitr, two of the biggest Islam celebrations of the year, the courtyard of this place is just absolutely filled, front to back, with people praying. I didn't get to see it personally, but it sounds like a really amazing and special moment. Unfortunately, we couldn't stay long. Delhi moves fast, and so did we. However, since we were nearby, we did stop and spend a little bit of time exploring the bazaars that give Old Delhi its unique flavor. I didn't learn much, I have to say. I mostly just kind of followed my tour guide back and forth, but I have to admit that it's also possible that I just wasn't thinking clearly, because it was July, and that midday sun was starting to get intense. We stopped for lunch at a place recommended by my guide called CHIDO. And you know, I have absolutely nothing bad to say about CHIDO. I had a fantastic meal here, but all hunger aside, the real goal here was to rehydrate and to sit in the air conditioning during the hottest part of the day. I ordered a delicious tikka masala curry along with some naan bread because I'm predictable, but also because it was recommended by the server. Finally, with the weather in the direct sun now at nearly 100 degrees Fahrenheit, we headed back out into the city to see what are probably the two most popular and interesting tourist destinations in the whole city. The first was HUMAYUN'S tomb, which is this huge and beautiful structure that sort of began the Mughal tradition of creating these elaborate tombs in India. As such, it's impossible not to make comparisons between this and the Taj Mahal, which started construction about 80 years after ground broke here. Whew, okay. That heat though. I'm not really sure if you can tell from the video, but I was absolutely drenched in sweat at this point. I honestly would have been equally as wet if you just took a hose and poured it directly over my head. I cannot remember ever feeling as hot as I felt standing at this tomb. Truly. Thankfully, I had water bottles and I was staying hydrated, but I could tell that my tour guide was feeling it too. We sort of rushed through the details of the tomb and scurried out of there as fast as we could to our last location of the day, the Lotus Temple. Now, I feel bad because I personally feel that the Lotus Temple is the most beautiful and interesting structure in all of New Delhi. And we basically just strolled in front of it, took a couple pictures and a couple videos, and immediately left. It was too hot. It was too hot to stay. We were dying out there. The Lotus Temple is dedicated to the Baha'i faith, which is a modern religion that essentially teaches that all belief systems are valid and that they are all different ways of communicating with the same God. As such, there is almost nothing inside. There are no altars, no shrines. It's basically an empty space dedicated to silent prayer and meditation. I mean, I genuinely find that very interesting, but maybe not more interesting than going home and getting out of the hot sun and hopping into a cold shower, which was exactly what I needed because aside from the obvious hygienic benefits, showers are the perfect place to reconcile your thoughts. And I had a lot of thoughts about New Delhi. I got home, I got hydrated, I hopped into a cold shower, and I tried to figure out what I was going to talk about in this video. Why is it that people don't like New Delhi? I mean, sure, the traffic is bad and the weather is really hot and everything is super intense, but it's pretty much that way everywhere in India. So what's the difference here? Honestly, I couldn't figure it out. But that's when I realized that by not knowing what to say, I might have inadvertently figured out New Delhi's problem. The reason why other travelers on YouTube tell you to stay away from New Delhi. The reason why, despite its huge population, New Delhi is one of the most negatively reviewed cities in all of India. My theory is that it's because it doesn't have a strong, cohesive identity. I mean, just look at the other videos in my India series. In Kolkata, I talk about art and craftsmanship. In Varanasi, I talk about life and death and religion. In Jaipur, I talk about royalty. In Mumbai, I talk about a lavish lifestyle. In Kerala, I talk about finding spirituality through nature. Every single other city, it has its thing. I couldn't find a thing in New Delhi. And maybe that's because in reality, a city of this size has to be a little bit of everything. And while I honestly can't say that I have a great way to classify it, one thing is for sure. DLF Capitol Greens gave me a proper home base for 28 days. A place to come back to and rest and eat at the food court. And within all of that, to find a sense of comfort and a sense of routine and a sense of safety within all the chaos. So here's my suggestion. Start with New Delhi and venture out from there. The beauty of an enormous city of 30 million people is that it can be whatever you need it to be. For me, with all my travels across India, in my downtime, I needed a home. And for at least a little while, New Delhi was that for me, and so much more.